What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to What's Your Story? So very excited for the guest I have on today. Again, like the Springfield trend that we continue with, I met Jack at Springfield and was a fellow RA of mine. I believe I was my senior year. He was a freshman at that point, and basically got along with him really, really well. But something that I really appreciated and admired about Jack was his work ethic from the beginning, from being a collegiate athlete to his running to balancing that with a student, just overall like a good human and even better of an athlete. So we're going to dive deep into like his running career at Springfield, just running in general, the mindset it takes to be at like an elite level that he was, breaking all kinds of records at Springfield when it comes to running. So we're going to dive deep into that and tell his journey from the beginning to where he is today. So Jack, I want to welcome you to the show, man.
Yeah, I'm honored to be on here. There's been quite a few legends on here, and I'm just glad to be a part of the next.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate it. I'm super stoked to dive deep because not only I want to tell your story, but I'm curious of just like the mindset that you've had and just the ability you had to do these types of runs and compete the way you have. So I'm excited to tell your story a bit. So I want to jump in from the beginning. When did you get into running and why running? Why not something else?
Well, running kind of came later on in life, to be honest. I was a football player like my entire childhood, all the way up until my senior year of high school. I did run cross country in middle school, but it was just kind of something I did because I could run without getting tired more than most people on my football team. So it was nothing where really I thought would go anywhere. And I'm applying for school senior year, and I ran outdoor track in high school. Just as like my spring sports season, and I was applying to different schools, and I was applying to Springfield, but I had no really intention of going to Springfield. I wasn't recruited by anyone out of high school to run. I was recruited by maybe like one or two football schools, but I was looking more at the academic side of things, and Springfield fit perfectly for PE. That's why I studied my undergrad, and I emailed the coach about a month into the semester. I said, "Do you guys take walk-ons?" And he said, "Yeah, we do." I sent him my high school times, and Coach Classic kind of opened me with open arms, and then kind of the rest is history. But yeah, running was never really in the future when I was younger.
So in high school, you played mostly football. You didn't really, did you run track and stuff like that or no?
I played, football and basketball were the main sports. And then I started outdoor track my freshman year because baseball just wasn't doing it for me anymore. I played baseball my entire life, and it was a very slow paced sport at times. And running was something where I could, expend that energy that I had all day. I was an energy fireball as a kid, so I needed to release that somehow, and running definitely helped me with that.
So in high school, played a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So you basically started as your freshman year. As it got to closer junior, senior year, were you competitive in like a high school level running, or is that something that kind of took off a little later on?
Yeah, I was competitive. I did win the conference my senior year in the mile and the 800. It was good enough to win conference. Got to states, didn't really make too much noise at states, and I guess that's where a lot of college coaches will go to watch athletes. So I wasn't making big noise at the state level championships. So I guess that's where like I didn't really get the recruiting to come into play. And recruiting, 5-6 years ago wasn't as big as it is nowadays with recruiting and the attention kids get. But yeah, I really, kind of just spring track ended and graduation came, and it was more just looking at the academic side of Springfield. But I did know that if I was going to do something at Springfield, it was going to be track. It wasn't going to be football. It wasn't going to be basketball. So I did have that in the back of my mind, but I just didn't know if I'd be good enough to be an NCAA collegiate athlete, if not make the team. So it wasn't looking too likely, but I got lucky where I ended up at Springfield.
So you look at Springfield from an academic standpoint. You originally said you weren't going to go there. What led you to go to Springfield, and like what academically did you go there for specifically at first anyway?
Yeah, so I actually was applying to like all bigger schools. Springfield was by far the smallest school I had applied to. I applied to Central Connecticut. I applied to UConn. So I'm from Prospect, Connecticut. So I was looking at Connecticut-based schools. I got waitlisted at UConn. I got into Central, but I didn't want to go to Central because, a lot of my classmates were going to Central. I kind of wanted to go do my own thing. And my PE teacher, Miss Ebner, was like the one who mentioned Springfield to me, and that was the first time I heard it. And Springfield was the last school I visited, and as soon as I stepped on campus, within an hour, like me and my mom both knew that this was going to be the place for me. It was high energy, student athletes everywhere. Someone was involved in some kind of fitness, some kind of working out, sports. The intended majors there as well. So I caught that vibe very easily, and I knew that Springfield hands down was gonna be the right decision I made.
It seems like most people get the same reaction from everyone I've interviewed. It's like a small community, but like just athletics, surrounding yourself with the right people.
Right.
You know, I talked to like Alex or like Nick or Zach Hadge and Andy Triana, and CJ Harper, all these guys, and it's like you go on to like in the weight room or you just get on the campus and you're surrounded by like super motivated, like athletic people. Was that kind of a similar thing for you?
Yeah, I feed off competitive people. A lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like being around people that are competitive and, making them feel like they have to work harder. And I enjoy that. I love the atmosphere of, being around people and like kind of that thing like, wow, that you see what they're doing, like I should be doing what they're doing, or I should be, trying to be better. And I just caught that vibe right away. And I wasn't even introduced to sports yet. It was just the people I was meeting on campus. Everyone was striving to be better. One person was holding the door, and then, some person would try to hold 2 doors in a row for that next person. So it's just
wild.
Like competitive and everything. Yeah. So that's just how I am. That's how I was wired and built. And I was like, yeah, wow, this place is definitely different. So yeah.
What did you end up doing your degree in?
So I came in undeclared. I knew I wanted to be involved in some sort of teaching and coaching. I knew PE was likely what I was going to declare in, but I just still wanted to go in undeclared and just keep my options open that first semester in case something, kind of came on the horizon and it interested me. And I declared for PE after my first semester, took a couple extra classes, bumped up my credits. My sophomore and junior year was still able to graduate on time with my incoming class.
Gotcha. Sorry, I had something pop up for a second. So you go in PE, you end up graduating with PE?
Yep, graduated PE. Yep, 4 years.
And then continued to do master's PE too?
Athletic administration. So it was physical education, master's degree with a focus in athletic administration, higher ed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So while you're going through the process, obviously you're doing the school thing, but this is kind of like where I wanted to dive deeper into. This is where your like athletic career kind of really took off. Did it start as like your freshman year? You kind of made your mark right away, and then like did you get better as your career went through Springfield, and when did it kind of start?
Yeah. So freshman year, I actually didn't do cross country, and that was kind of the theme I missed because I wasn't recruited. So if you do cross country, you're doing indoor track, you're doing outdoor track. So the thing is with those type of athletes is you're in season all year. I think that's different than any other collegiate athlete. Is you're running in the fall, you're running in the winter, and you're running in the spring. Most of the athletes at Springfield, they have 2 off seasons at least, or they have at least 1 off season. And with our sport, you don't. So you got to be clicking all the time. And so I missed that fall season. So that's when I had tried to introduce myself to the head coach of the indoor team, and I started doing captain's practices with the indoor team, and I was texting, seniors, texting captains on the team, when can I come to practice? When can I do this? And my first season was that indoor season. And I just kind of hit the ground running, like no pun intended. I really just, I was just, I didn't talk. I just listened. I listened to all the older guys around me. I listened to my coaches. I did everything they said. And, I think the times just started happening for themselves. I was just super stoked to be given that opportunity to run at the NCAA level, even though it was only Division III. I felt like I was doing something that was a lot bigger than myself, so that kind of just gave me that drive every day. And I was always trying to move forward. I was never really trying to settle because I had so many good people around me, and that's where that competitive drive comes back with Springfield. You're just surrounded by so many good athletes. So I was surrounded by that every day at practice.
Well, it's crazy too, because like that's something I appreciate so much is like the fact that being humble, walking on, being like, I'm just gonna put in work and do it, because it's easy to have an ego, especially if you were a decent runner coming out, and then you got to come on, walk on, prove your dues, pay your dues, and that whole thing. And
Yeah.
then not only do you do that, you start to like do very well. And as I see you kind of go through that as you get into it, putting up some wild mile times.
Yeah.
When it comes down to the mile ended up being your number one priority, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
which was not intended either. I ran the mile in high school, but I was an 800 guy, and I was an 800 guy coming in, and even my freshman, sophomore, and even junior year, I really focused just on the 800, which is the half mile. Um, and I just kept getting stronger each season. I dealt with some injuries, so I was focusing a lot on strength and kind of veering away from the speed aspect. Um, and then, senior year, we tried dipping into the mile, and that ended up being the main event, which is crazy because I was focusing so hard in one event for 3 years, and you're trying to perfect that one event, and it just switches like that your senior year. So it ended up working out for the best of both worlds because I was still able to do both events my senior year. But yeah, the mile became my main event, where I had most of my success, definitely going into my senior year.
What was your fastest mile?
At Springfield, it was 4:07. My senior year in February, that was my top time.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like I can't even fathom running a 4:07 mile. It's just like
If you told me that my freshman year, I would have laughed at you, Jeff. I would have laughed.
Do you remember what you were doing freshman year, like comparatively?
Yeah, coming in, I ran my best time out of high school was 4:30, so about a 23-second difference. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is when you're talking time. Sometimes down to a tenth millisecond is a good day when you run that much faster. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Well, like to be at that point, you're literally almost in a dead sprint, like the whole time.
Yeah. As the more I did the event, the more I learned that it's like the 800. I mean, there's no time to think. It's very strategic, the mile. It is. It's very strategic. It can become, a slow jog at sometimes, or it could become a slow sprint, just based on what other runners are doing. And it's hard to gauge yourself off of other runners. But yeah, the more elite level you got to in the mile, the more elite guys you were racing, the more I realized that this isn't really, that much of a strategic event. This is, a fast sprint for about a little over 4 minutes, if not close to 4 minutes. So, yeah.
What you said, like training wise, you're running pretty much year round. Like you said, a lot of sports there's on and offs. Like, what kind of training were you doing to do this? Like on a week to week basis? Obviously, there's tapering and there's all these different things you're doing. But are you running pretty much every day? And even though you're competing for the mile, are you doing like longer runs and shorter runs, or like what did it kind of look like in general, if you kind of generalize it a little bit?
Yeah. So, it varied with seasons. I was higher mileage during cross country because, we were racing a longer distance and, kind of brought it down a little bit for indoor and outdoor because we were focusing so much on those workouts during the week and different aspects and specifics of training. But I was never a high mileage guy. We had high mileage guys on the team. Everyone's mileage was different, with our longer distance guys, doing upwards of close to 70, 80 miles a week. And I was one of the lower end guys. I sometimes I was only doing 35 to 45 miles a week, at most 50 to 55. I never really went over that 50-mile range. That was kind of my sweet spot, was around that 50 of my peak training. And that was with cross training at least once a week. My head coach, Coach Diamond, who I'm still close with to this day, who got me kind of to where I am now. She was a huge believer in cross training, and what I mean by cross training is, it's off your feet. Whether you're in the pool, aqua jogging, or if you're on the bike spinning. We incorporate at least one of those days every week, and that was very important to me because I was still getting into work aerobically, but I wasn't beating up my legs. I was giving my legs that break, and a lot of runners don't do that, and they still have success. But I found my most success with taking that one day of cross training per week, and that kind of trickled over from my sophomore, junior year, and really into my senior year. I relied on that cross train day immensely because it was more, it's sometimes more of a mental break too. When you're going all year. I looked forward to those cross train days. I didn't take those cross trains lightly. It's not like I was like, I could take these days. I'm not on my feet. I was still going 110%, whether if I was in the pool or on the bike. But just mentally, not being on the roads, not being on the track, not, thinking negatively. You just kind of thought about things one thing at a time on those cross train days, and I knew my body was gonna, thank me for it after the after effects.
Well, even from my perspective, because I'm dealing with all kinds of injuries all the time. It's just trying to work around them, from like
Yeah,
broke my femur when I was younger, all these big injuries that happen, compensation. So I feel like there's so much value in that. I'm sure there's a mental component where like if I don't run, I'm not going to get better. But like you said, it's the non-impactive, the aerobic cardio, that there's a huge, huge help to that.
yep.
So you get to the point now where you're like, you get through college, you're super competitive. You ended up breaking. What records did you end up breaking through Springfield? Because you broke a few records, right?
Yeah, I broke 5 and I still have the 5. None of them have been
That's
broken.
awesome.
So yeah, there was 3 indoor. It was the 800 meter indoor, which I did in 152. It was the 1,000 indoor, which I did in 225, and then it was the mile at 407. And then outdoor, I got my first school record was the 800 meters outdoor junior year, which I ran also in 152, and then the 1,500 my senior year in 347, which is like a modified version of the indoor mile. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. The first one happened my junior year, and I was like ecstatic. I was kind of just, I thought that was going to be it. I was like, wow, like I put my name in the record books, and I was just coming off injury, and I kind of came back senior year, and that summer I got very hungry. I was impatient, not impatient, but I was ready to get back, and I wanted more than just that one, and I knew I could, and that's kind of where like my training came into like being very serious and being very continual each day. So yeah, 5 in total right now. But I'm sure a couple will be broken within maybe the next few years or so.
We'll see. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
cool though. Like, what are those? Cause, I think everyone has those different types of moments, but there's very few people that I think have those kind of moments. You're talking about breaking a school record or those huge moments you're training year round for. What are
Yeah.
those moments like? Like when they actually happen. You say you win the race, and it's like, it's got to be emotional.
Yeah, it is. So I've Jeff, to be honest, I've broken down after some races just to the point where it's been like, you go through so much, and like there's so much time before that race that the people don't see. They don't realize, um, how many bad days happen before that good day. How many days where, I just wanted to stop. I just wanted to quit. I just wanted to stop what I was doing. And, I questioning myself, is this really worth what I'm doing? Should I just go to school and get my degree? Why am I putting myself through this mental barrier each time I try to do something? And those races where, that's all I needed sometimes, but like, yeah, this is why I do it, for moments like these. A lot of times it wasn't even really about me. It was about, the people that have been supporting me the entire time. That's why I was doing it. Um, my head coach, Coach Clacker, who was my first head coach, and Coach Brown, they got me going with it. And, I was running a lot of the time. I was running for them. And then Coach Diamond came along, and she really, really took off with my talents, and she brought me to levels I never thought I'd be at. I was running for her, and I was running for my mom and my brother back home, the entire time, and as well as my father who passed away in high school. I was running for something that was always bigger than me, and that's what kind of made me just dig deeper each time, because it was never about me. Whenever I thought about those moments, it was like, well, it's not about you, Jack. It's about what everyone's invested in you. It's about the sacrifices people have made to see you enjoy what you want to do. So it wasn't even like I was just doing it for other people and not enjoying it. I would put them into perspective, and I would enjoy what I was doing, because a lot of people don't get the opportunity that I got. So that kind of, when things got tough, I just thought of things like that, and not everyone gets these opportunities. So that was just kind of something I always kept in the back of my head.
I talked to Nick. Nick Hadge?
Yes.
So I talked to him.
I know of Nick. I don't know Nick.
Yeah. But. So the cool thing, and the reason it made me think of him is something you said is Nick. He was junior world's strongest man, literally the strongest 23-year-old in the world, like the world's strongest man, 23 and under. And he talked about his road to get there, and basically talked about how the road to the top is a very lonely road, and
Yeah.
no one really understands what it takes to get to that point, and they see you on top of the hill and they're like holding your trophy, you're like, yay, but like how you said it, to get to those records, to compete at the level you did, to train all those hours and running and balancing everything, no one really sees all that, and then they're like, oh yeah, that's cool, like I want to do that, but they don't see the work that gets in.
Right.
My whole point with that is, like, what motivated you? You talked about your, the passing of your dad. You talked about your family. You talked about that. Was something instilled at you at a young age where you're just a very driven person, or, that come later on, maybe into sports or whatever it may be?
Yeah. I kind of just always had it. Since I could remember. My father was very hard on my brother and I in sports, but not in a negative way. Just more of just he was a huge effort guy. Um, and he
No
wasn't
excuses.
Yeah, he wasn't really just like he wasn't all about the numbers, and he was like always just made sure no matter what we did, whether what and sports it showed the most because of how invested he was in us in that. But he just always made sure that me and my brother were given 100% effort in everything we did, um, and that's just kind of something I always instilled with me, through academics, through athletics, through relationships in life, kind of everything. So I treated running the same way I treated everything else.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like hearing that because it's interesting to me because I want to like give information to people, and I think a lot of people, you know, um, think they can just get motivated overnight, maybe, or just think it comes very easy, and to realize that it takes time to build off, days and days and days of like putting in the work,
Yeah.
at a younger age, like him instilling that into you, like the value of that, and then you just consistently doing that, and then finally getting to a point where all those, things that were built into you, building one brick at a time, it works on the big end. But it's weird too, because a lot of people talk about motivation, being motivated, and I don't know how you feel about this, but a lot of times I tell people motivation's kind of bullshit. It's very temporary. Like, you can
Yeah.
be motivated watching a YouTube video, but it doesn't mean you're gonna get up tomorrow at 6 a.m. or 4:30 like you're doing
Right.
to do it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like goal setting moving forward, are there things you do on a day-to-day basis to like keep consistently motivate yourself, or setting these little goals or bigger goals, or what are things that maybe you do to keep yourself motivated now that you've achieved all the success, whether it's career, whether it's running, what are some things
Yeah.
that you do?
I think the biggest thing I mean I would give people as for advice is to constantly network. And networking just doesn't, when I say it, this doesn't mean people, when you hear the word network, they think of like just job related, like, oh, I need to network and I need to talk to people that have a lot of experience. You need to talk to people that have a lot of experience in what you want to do outside of work. Like I network in running, I talk to other guys who are kind of in my situation that are like, they're not professional runners, but they're in that sub elite category where they're trying to find that contract, they're trying to find that club where they can start to make it big and make a name for themselves. And it's talking to people. What do I need to do more? Like, what do I need to do less of? Like, ask yourself different questions. It's not always what do I need to do more. What do I need to cut back on? And your priorities too is how important is it to you? Like I get that people have an everyday job, and you have to get things done and during this crisis and everything. And I totally get that, but I make time for running every day. You know, for one reason because I want to do it. For the next reason because I invest myself so much. Like for people who invest things that they're interested in, give yourself a reward. If you're investing so much to it, like give yourself the opportunity. Reach out to more people. Don't just keep doing the same thing that you're doing and thinking, oh, I hope this is okay. Like, it's okay to ask people, like, hey, does this sound right? Or like, what do you do? Like, I think networking in that form is, it's reassuring for yourself. It's like you networking about, different jobs, you having like a complete um, career like change in life. Like you just find out, like you got to experience things, you have to like find out firsthand. And if you don't, then you may go a long time before you figure out, hey, this isn't what I want to do, or this isn't why I want to do it, or I'm not motivated doing this. Um, and some things I do is, I just use a basic calendar. I write things down. I write down my goals. Everyone, it's cliche, but it's just that, I talk about my goals to other people. I let other people hear it. And sometimes it comes back to me when, like, I want to take the easy way out, and they're like, hey, don't you want to break 4 in the mile? And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, you're right, I do. Let me just do one more like little thing, and those little things add up week by week, month by month, and it's a long, slow process. But I mean, the biggest thing is just having patience with it, because like you said, it's not going to happen overnight. Like you could be motivated, you could be watching stuff at night on your phone, and and all of a sudden I'm gonna wake up at 5 tomorrow and work out, and then the next day you don't do it. Like that doesn't
Right.
matter. It's not the purpose. So, the other thing too is, I think the biggest thing with social media is everyone wants to put out there what they're doing. They want to let everyone know what they're doing, and like letting them know, hey, look what I'm doing. And you know what? Like I don't get mad at what people do. Like some people are like work in silence and do this, and you know what? Like if putting it out there motivates you, then keep putting it out there. Like you know what I mean? You may be helping someone that you may not know. They may just be seeing your stuff and they may just be getting better, but they don't tell you. Um, I think a lot of times the people that are putting it out there, it's helping them because they're like, yeah, hey, maybe somebody needs this. Hey, maybe I need to keep doing this because this keeps getting me up in the morning. So I know that was kind of a long answer to your question, but I think it all goes full circle.
Yeah, I'm like it's interesting. I played both sides of it before too. To your point when you're saying about putting out content. So
Yeah.
like if I say like I'm gonna do a bodybuilding show and then I tell everyone to do it, so now I have to do it. But if I have setbacks or something happens, it's like I don't want to give up on it, so I'm trying to work around it. And sometimes if you do, like you can't have like something just doesn't work out and you physically can't
Right.
do that goal. It kind of sucks because now you have to admit like you can't do it. But at the same time, like that accountability of everyone knowing, shoot, I told everybody I'm gonna do this, I have to do it. So
Right.
it's interesting too because it's like both sides. There's values in
Yeah.
both because the
There.
work in silence, you don't have to worry about any negativity. You just do your
Right.
thing and crush it. But it's also nice to have like that accountability,
Right. Yep.
I'm curious because you said briefly at the beginning, you talked a little about injuries, a few like things like that.
Yep.
Over your running career, you didn't ever, at least when I knew you, when we talked, you never really complained about injuries and setbacks. But have you had some decent setbacks or injuries over the
Yeah.
years to like really kind of question and if you're gonna be able to do this race or how am I gonna be able to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, during our time in alumni, I had a major one. Um, my junior year, I made a foolish mistake. I still loved football, so and even after long workouts and practices of cross country, I'd somehow find the time, to hop in an intramural game every now and then, with my boys, because I can never put the spikes away in the gloves.
Right.
Um, so it's the week of conference championship. It's a Tuesday. Our conference championship's on Sunday, and the guys came up to my room in alumni. They said, "Hey, we need one more guy, or else we're gonna have to forfeit the game." And I was like, "Yeah, I got you guys. Like, no problem." And long story short, it happened to be the last play of the game, and I sprained my ankle, real bad on a slant route going in. Knee went one way, ankle went the other. And I thought I just rolled it. Found out the next morning that this wasn't just a light sprain. Walked into my coach's office, tried lying to her, saying, I kind of came off the curb the wrong way. It's just a light sprain. I'll be good to go for Sunday. And realized that I'm not that type of person. I later on told her that day or a few days later what I really did. And I was just honest. And it was a down moment for me because I didn't let down myself. I let down a lot of my teammates. But I still ended up racing on Sunday. I taped the whole thing up, tried to relieve as much pressure as I could. I raced well, but I know I could have raced better on the bum ankle. I went 2 more weeks on it, raced at the regional championship with it. That was a disaster. Running on a sprained ankle 3 weeks later, it was trashed. I was in the middle of the race and I kind of gave up because I was in so much pain. It's like one of those races I just really regret. And that injury, after that, I took time off, and what I thought was going to be a couple weeks into indoor season ended up being 3.5 months of no racing, no running at all. Back and forth going home, MRIs, X-rays, nothing was broken. Had to get an MRI. Some small tears left, things like that, and then just hours and hours of rehab in the athletic training room. Phone calls home in tears, not wanting to do this anymore, kind of just thinking the world's coming to an end. And then March comes, I finally get back on my feet, back running. And then about 8 weeks later, I broke my first school record off of about a month and a half of running. And that's when I knew I was kind of just driven. I dug deep into a lot of mental practices I was in a very dark place in those 3 months because running was my life. That was my identity at Springfield. I was that kid on campus. That's who everyone kind of referred me to. And when I wasn't doing that, like no one was really focused on me. No one was really asking me how I was doing. Like they're all like, oh yeah, Jack's still hurt, or Jack's not running. And that's kind of who I became for those 3 months. And I was in a really dark place with it. And that's what kind of fed my fire though during those 3 months was the physical side. I never really gave up on the mental or physical side. I was seeing athletic counselors. I was talking to sports psychologists. I was talking to friends and family, like not associated with running, and I kind of just built myself up through those long winter months, get myself back where I was in March. And like you said earlier, that one race in May, it was the last race of the season, and that's when I broke my first school record, and that's kind of where I just had that moment. I was on the phone with my mom crying. My head coach was crying. It was kind of just one of those things. It's like, you really could put it together if you really try. And I think that helped a lot of my teammates too, because a lot of my teammates were going through stuff, later on, the next season. I kind of was almost like a helping ally to them. Like, listen, like I'm not a robot. Like, I went through the same thing. Like, it may seem like my life is perfect and everything's like, roses and dandelions, but it's not. And I think that helped a lot of people, and it helped me because I never really took anything for granted either. I never took running for granted after that. I took running for granted before that, and after that I didn't. And I was just happy to go on easy runs. I was just happy to be on my feet and be healthy ever since that injury. And I was lucky enough to be healthy my senior year as well. So yeah.
It's crazy how not even one little, but one injury can just put so many things into perspective. Just when it comes to, like, when it's taken away from you, that's when it really hits you of what it kind of means at the same time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, even me with like injuries, I felt the same way. It's like you appreciate doing the little things.
Yeah.
Like, the whole time. A couple questions. So, like, the first one I have is, when you're deep in this race, say you're 3 minutes into your race, you're 3/4 of a mile in, I don't think a lot of people try to run fast or run pretty hard, and they're breathing heavy, they're fatigued, and then they quit, or they're running at distance or whatever it is. When you get to that point where you're just like, or should I ask this, are there points where you're deep into a race, even though it's your bread and butter, the 1 mile, but it's so competitive, your heart rate's so high that you're like almost gonna die, feel almost like you get to that point, and like, how do you push through that to keep pushing? Because you're working at such a high level. I don't think most people understand, maybe not to your point, but just sprinting for that long.
Yeah, I think, when, the other thing too is, I think I get to that point in that race, and that's where I really just trust my training. There's moments where like I've done so many workouts that have felt just like that feeling that I'm in, and I tell myself, well, I got through that workout, I can get through this. And there's a lot of outside factors too. In workouts, you don't have the adrenaline like you do. You're not racing in front of hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. You don't have family there during the workouts like you do in the races. So in the races, it's not hard for me to find that extra gear. That's just kind of something that's instilled with me. The hardest part for me is during those workouts, but when I get to that point in that race, and you hit it right on the head, it's right around 3/4, with 2 laps to go or a lap to go, where you're like, you put everything you've had into it, and you got to dig to places you've never dug before. And that's happened with each race. Like, you've dug so deep in a race, and then the next one you're like, how can I go any deeper? Like, how can I dig any deeper? And, somehow I was able to always pull it out a little bit each time. And it was more of running through the mental wall than the physical wall. Your head is just telling you, yeah, you can't do this. You need to just let it go. And I trained myself within my senior year to now of just breaking that mental wall, and I realized how much I've really it's amazing what the human body can do when you can break that mental wall. I don't know how to explain it. It's just
Yeah.
something that where you push, it's something you have to experience and feel. I can't just say, like, you have to break the mental wall. Like, what are you doing? Like, you have to be mentally tough. I don't believe in that saying. I think it's something you just have to experience.
Yeah, I mean, you have to put yourself in a very uncomfortable situation over and over and
Right.
over again. Like to your point in training, you have to be willing to work that hard to the point
Yep.
you can't breathe, over and over again when that lactic acid's building up and you're just hurting. But that's so hard for so many people to do because logically your body's like, don't do this, but you
Right.
have to keep pushing. I feel like through physical discomfort, that's where that growth's going to come from.
Absolutely.
You talked about the 4 minute mile. Is that your goal? Or do you have a
Yeah.
goal? Like that
That's
is
what
that the
I've
goal?
been. Yeah, that's the main goal right now. I had a tough time the year after I graduated. My best mark was 407 my senior year, and I didn't touch that for well over a year. The closest I came was 409, and that was a year after I had graduated. So I thought my fitness was declining. I was having some negative thoughts here and there, being like, should I really keep running? Like, is running really meant for me after college? Can I do this? And with the help of my head coach, Coach Diamond, she got me into Garden State Track Club out of New Jersey. And they support sub elite runners and a lot of elite pro runners. And I was able to get connected with Chuck, who's a great guy. He runs an awesome club, and he gave me an opportunity, and he gave me a purpose to run for a group and someone else. And this past winter, I ran 404 in back-to-back races, and that's where it
That's
kind of
wild.
my fitness is actually here. Like I'm this close to doing it. And then I ran 403, and I'm like, like I don't know what else to do. Like I am pulling every part of my being into these races.
I can't even imagine.
I am
I
just
can't even
pouring
imagine.
out. I'm in the hurt locker after these races. Like I'm just, I'm like holding onto railings walking back to my seat. Like I'm just putting everything into these races. I'm fighting sickness. I'm fighting body aches. I'm just coming back every week, and um, 403 was the lowest I got, but like I just know, with a healthy training block again, like I can do it. Like there was races where I had the opportunity, I didn't take full advantage of it. Um, but I have been in races where guys, I've raced guys who have broken four. So I've put myself in the conversation with those guys. Um, but yeah, that's just the main thing I'm training for right now. And it's hard because there's no races going on right now. There's nothing. A lot of runners have lost a sense of purpose because there's nothing to train for right now. I kind of think it's the opposite. I think this is the best time to really practice a lot of the physical and mental side of things. And I'm just preparing for when that opportunity comes. I'm going to be ready. Like I don't know when it's going to happen, but I want to make sure I'm going to be ready. Because life happens. I'm applying for jobs. I don't know where I'm going to end up being. I'm used to training on my own, but I'm looking for a group. I'm looking for someone to train with all the time. So it's kind of the unknown that gives me the motivation. A lot of people don't like, flirting with the unknown. I think that's kind of what's been helping me because nothing's set in stone right now. So
You have to give one piece of advice to someone that's getting into running, not just someone that wants to get into shape, but someone that wants to take it to another level. What piece of advice would you give someone that's trying to do that?
Be patient. I mean, it's I've been doing this for years, and it's been I'm still not at like where I want to be, but I'm happy with what I'm doing. I enjoy the sport, and for a lot of people, they think of my sport is their punishment. Like a lot of people
Right.
they look at running as a punishment, and I used to too, but um, for that 50 minutes to an hour of my day, I kind of just zone out. Nothing's really stressing me out, nothing's bothering me. I'm doing what I like to do, and if people can find that in running, then stick with it. I think that's awesome because it's rare. People can find that in working out, people can find that in lifting, they can find it in golf, anything. But I find it in running. And I think you just got to be patient. Running's a sport where I still, out of the 7 days out of the week, I think I feel good for maybe 3 or 4 of my runs. And I'm running at the level I'm running at. And for me to feel good on half of my runs of the week is a positive to me. Because those 3-4 days where I don't, I'm like, yeah, God, I'm doing this again. Like, I really am doing this again. But those other 3-4 days, when they call it runner's high or whatever people want to call it. That's what it's like those moments you said after those certain races. That's kind of why you do it. And you're gonna have more bad moments than good moments as well. So that's not all, about the good runs. It's some of the worst runs I've had, or where I've grown the most as a person.
Yeah.
The self-talk on that run and how bad you're feeling, but just the positive thoughts flowing no matter how your body's feeling. I think people that are just getting into running or trying to step up their game in running have to really try and practice the mental side of it. Because those other 23 hours of the day, you're not practicing the mental. You're only practicing it for that hour a day when you're. So I think it's something to put into perspective.
Are you doing a ton of like mindset stuff? Do you listen to like audiobooks or YouTube videos or stuff like reading or not really?
I don't really do audiobooks. I don't I'm not like typing, like researching like motivational stuff. There's a few people I follow that kind of just not even related to running. It's just something where like they just one is like you were saying before, David Goggins is that tapped mindset. That's something I feed into during like the hard sessions.
Have you read his book?
I have not. I
just finished it 2 days ago. The audio book I listened to.
I've been told by many people, and I've listened to parts of it, and I really need to just sit down and read front to cover in order to call myself a true fan. And number 2 is Inky Johnson. Just Inky, like life in general, perspective on everything. Just being grateful for what you have, and just putting everything into what you have each day and living in each day. I mean, if anyone gets anything out of this video, it's you look him up and listen to some of his quick talks. It's not really a TED talk; it's more of like it's a life talk. It's pretty intense.
He was this close.
It's very humbling, yeah. And if you want to hear someone that's that got to where they are now and is making the best of what they have, that's someone that to really put in perspective. He was really the one who got me through that junior year injury. I was listening to him like it was, my favorite kind of musician. Like he was just, I had him on every night. And sometimes that's what got me to sleep, or that's what got me up in the morning. So yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing when I was going through a bodybuilding prep when I was leaving Springfield when I won my pro card. I was like, remember just audio, because you feel like crap, you're tired, you're fatigued.
Yeah.
And you're just constant, just pushing that stuff into your head,
Yeah.
Last question. Favorite running moment?
Oh man. Favorite running moment. There's so many. Oh my God. That's a good question. As like genuine as that question is, I've never been asked that, honestly, my favorite running moment. But if I had to go with one, it had to be when I got my first All-American honoree. That was the main goal in my senior year. And it was all the way down in Alabama. It was a long trip. I had all the pressure in the world on me. Everyone thought I was going to go in and just, cakewalk and walk out with an All-American medal. And I was out of my comfort zone. I really was. I went down there and top 20 guys in the country racing the mile. And when you put yourself in that category, like these are the top 20 guys in the country, not just racing, 20 guys. You're racing the top 20 guys in the country. And there's 2 rounds, and they're back-to-back races. That's the other thing that people understand is you race Friday and you race Saturday, and I never had done that before. I had never raced as hard as I could Friday and then less than 24 hours the next day. So I luckily I made it through the prelim. Top 12 made it to prelim, so 8 guys got eliminated. And out of those 12 in the final, only 8 were guaranteed All-American honors. And my brother flew down from Connecticut to Alabama. My mom had flown down. 2 of my best friends, Jake Simons and Liz Foote, and my other best friend, Austin Ramos, drove down from
That's wild.
Just to see this race. So I had all the pressure in the world for this thing. But I ended up getting fourth in the country. I exceeded my expectations, and that was kind of the moment where like I had finally like took a sigh like of breath and just like this is why I did it. Like this was all the long miles in the summer. I was wondering what was going to happen this year. All the hard workouts, all the hard races. The injury I went through my junior year. The record I got, the records that led up to that. I wasn't really racing for my last name to be on the record book. I was racing for something that was like much bigger than me, and that was a moment too where just the complex I was at, the venue was just so elite. It was the NCAA championships, and like I just kept thinking like my dad would love this. Like he would be all over this. Like I know he's watching, but like he would be all over this right now. And I just kept thinking of him during those two races, and that's kind of just like what lifted me. I feel like really in the end, it sounds cliche, but
No.
he has a very strong spirit in me. So it was something that was just you kind of just have one of those moments where you're like you're looking up, you're like, yeah, someone's definitely with me. So I'd have to go with that one.
Well, it's like a I made it moment. It's like when it's like holy shit, like I made it. I'm top 5 in the country. Like so I can see easily. Yeah, I can see easily why.
I just stepped onto that podium and I was like, this is like, I don't even know if this is real right now. Like I really don't. Like as soon as it like went around your neck, it was just the NCAA Division III like championships, but to me it could have been like Olympics and that.
Yeah, I mean it's all relative, man. Like even you're like it's only NCAA 3 or what but at the same time like it's not like you're running these 6-minute miles. It's not like you're not a elite runner. It's legit. And you train so hard.
Yeah, and I would never downplay Division III because as soon as I got into those championships, that's when I realized that this like Division III running is no joke. And some of these guys are Division II, if not Division I talent.
Right. They just happen to go to that school.
Yeah, they're just going to a very good academic school. So that was the kind of cool thing to put in perspective as well. And a couple of those guys went on to run, they're running sub-elite. And one of them is the guy that won the national championship, Jeremy Hernandez, who became a good friend of mine in my senior year, is actually running pro now. He was the first Division III guy to go under 4. He's doing big things. So to kind of be in the same conversation with him, was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. And again, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story and talking about all this because it intrigued me and I was super interested in a lot of it because not like the stuff I'm starting to get into, but just I think a lot of people are like, hey, I'm gonna go for a run, but to get to that level, how much work it takes, the discipline, the time, and just to be able to see, what you've done and how, just walking on the team and what you're capable of if you lock into that mindset and truly want something. I think that can inspire people because it's not like you were a genetic freak. You worked your ass off. So, again, man, I appreciate you coming on and telling your story.
Yeah, this is awesome. I was honored to be on here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So if anyone reaches out to you, Instagram, Facebook, is there a preference?
All the above. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Cool. All right, man. Well, thanks again, everybody. Till next time, chase discomfort, be kind. I'll see you guys soon.